lays out what is done typically on this planet to spiritually highly evolved human beings who have a love in their heart for not only humanity, but for the Great Spirit. If you look at what's going on in Hawaii today, where I live now, I've been blessed to be there to do some wonderful work. Did you know that right now there are approximately 8,000 native Hawaiians remaining on the Hawaiian Islands? That's it. The Armenian genocide, the African genocide, AIDS, spiritually attuned, divinely faithful, get targeted. South Americans and many, many other genocides. Environmental destruction is an earmark of evil. It is an earmark of inhumane, insane, immoral, reprehensible, malicious behavior. It is not loving. It is not considerate. It's not even rational, based on all science. Deforestation, petrochemical dumping, air pollution, waste generation, landfill dumping, not living in tune with nature but against it. That is alien to humanity. Cultural degradation, the sex, drugs, and rock and war cult, the British invasion. If you know the history of CIA operative Charlie Manson, and if you watched the Super Bowl, you were probably appalled, as I was, at the main theme of the halftime concert conducted by Sir, knighted, Paul McCartney. This was, after all, Super Bowl 39. The theme was, the message was, in the midst of America's military might and nationalism, rah, rah, USA for the world to see, one of the most televised productions in all of history, with the sound quality of McCartney and band being unsurpassed. The theme, big message, the height of the energy, with a big explosion, was the music from Live and Let Die. Ian Fleming, who was from the beginning of his career a British Secret Service agent and operative, writing the entire genre of James Bond novels. Live and Let Die, where the music says, we used to say, live and let live. You know, we did. But in this ever-changing world in which we live in, makes us give it a try to live and let die, as we conduct our war on terrorism around the planet on behalf of the British oligarchy and the European banksters. Now, in the book Healing Codes for the Biological Apocalypse, we presented the original musical scale, the ut, re, mi, fa, sol, la, ti, do. Third note, miragistorum, miracles. We're going to talk a little bit about that. We talked about in this book and revealed the alphanumerics of the English language, and then we advanced the fact that English is a perfect spiritual language, except that it's been flipped 100%, completely around. It was derived from Hebrew, one of the ancient sacred languages, ancient Aramaic, Hebrew, Sanskrit, had a resonance to it, a vibrational essence to it that moved matter, like in the work called cymatics, in the science of cymatics, the effects of sound on matter. We learned that English was done, basically, created in the 14th century, when human was defined, to dumb us down, to dumb humanity down. Using the model in the Bible, the Babylon, you confuse the languages and you get a chance to disempower people. So we showed this to you in Healing Codes, and when I took my next steps, both in the Healing Celebrations material and then publishing 3 months before September 11th, the book, Death in the Air, Globalism, Terrorism, and Toxic Warfare, where I decoded the British Secret Service's alphanumeric codes. They represent MI6, primarily Miracle 6, derived from the third note of the ancient musical scale we're going to talk about, including the 528 frequency. Well, turns out that the code, using their code, that the X's stand for sixes. So that 666 or XXX is triple adult entertainment, triple X is 666. The reason why you play tic-tac-toe with X's and O's, both O's and X's are sixes. So by the time you're done, the entire board is filled up with 666, 666, 666. So interestingly enough, the derivation of the royal flag from the Rosicrucian-related sacred symbol, the Red Cross. Red Cross, now controlled blood industry by Rockefellers, got money from Rothschilds. Ultimately, Rothschild, you know the history if you've read our previous works and many other esteemed authors. The mysterious Templar fleet disappeared. Where'd the money go? Well, you follow it to become the pirates of the oceans. And ultimately, if you take the flag itself and you divide it into quarters and rotate each quarter precisely 90 degrees, you come up with the Nazi swastika by no accident. So when you begin to look at genetics and DNA and you begin to look at the infiltration in this science of these devil doers, and you look at in the New York Public Library, for example, you see the secret of life, the DNA story in New York, the evolution in New York of the entire genetics, but first, eugenics agenda, scientific investigation of genetic differences between the races, including the genetic predispositions for diseases between the races, because it was funded largely by the Rockefellers and Bush, Prescott Bush family, the Whitneys, the Carnegies, the Vanderbilts, those who were of wealth and power decided that it was a great threat. And this is even told to you by way of the information on the internet right now presented to you by the authorities, that they were afraid that their wealth and control would be eliminated by the rapid growth of populations, particularly of the ethnic populations coming to America. So they created this entire project. Now, what's interesting for me is when I look at this particular cover from the New York Public Library exhibit, you don't only just see Cold Springs Harbor Laboratory logo, which was where they conducted this research, you see the royal family symbol, the crown, and the lion, and the Rockefeller University symbol side by side. And if you ask why would that be, you can begin to get the answers, such as the Rockefeller partner in cancer devil doing, Alfred P. Sloan, royalty, control of General Motors fame, Alfred P. Sloan Foundation. He says, quote, more effective techniques. This was Everett Case, president of the Alfred P. Sloan Foundation, said in 1968. He said, quote, more effective techniques for the control of population growth are at hand now. The genetic code has been deciphered. Well, I thought they just did that the other day. This is 1968. The genetic code has been deciphered, and the elements of DNA can now be synthetically made. Science, whatever of its problems, including the apprehension that we, the public, have, and the revulsion against it, and its untoward consequences, is an enterprise that they take. It's too dynamic to be turned off. Second warning, Zbigniew Brzezinski, early warnings now. It's from the early 70s. David Rockefeller protege, he says, power will gravitate into the hands of those who control information. The information I'm going to be sharing with you is the most powerful information that has been released in 3,000 years. They've controlled it. They don't want you to have it. Because they're entering now, particularly an important technotronic era, a dictatorship. Looking ahead into the future, the end of the century, which is now, the possibility of biochemical mind control and genetic tinkering with man, including beings, which will function like men and reason like them as well, could give rise to some difficult questions. Creation of beings, discussed in the early 70s by the major industrialists. The psychosocial control that's taking place, is that an indicator for humanity and humaneness? Or is it an indicator of insanity and cruelty? Where's the empathy in the fear factor? Spreading anthrax. The cancer industry spreading cancer-inducing toxins throughout the environment and our